thing with the Proud Boys is the ruling elite are afraid of men. You know, it's a huge soy boy movement coming down the pipe, right? Soy everywhere. If anybody's listening right now, or everybody that's listening right now, soy is bad for you.
It's not good.
It is very bad for you.
It's processed nonsense. It gives you estrogen.
Yes. Well, it activates the phytoestrogens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now you got these men who are acting like women who can't even, control their wives. Let another man sleep with their girlfriend, right?
But isn't that just people are just kinky into weird shit?
Well, no.
You don't think so?
No.
What do you think it is?
I think it's pushed. I think debauchery is highly pushed, yeah.
By who?
The ruling elite, ruling class. I want to say
really
elite because they're not elite.
To sit around and go, you know what we need to do? We need to push debauchery.
Well, when you look at the degradation of Russia, right, before the Bolshevik Revolution, what they do is they come in first with alcohol, right? So they purchase your hops and your barley and they produce alcohol. Then what they do is they sell the alcohol to the farmer on credit because he ain't got no money, right? Because he's been drunk. He hasn't been producing the crops like he should. He falls into credit. He falls into debt. When he falls into debt, he's now a slave to the land he once owned. Now I can sell whatever I want to this population or give this population whatever I want because they are now technically my slave. But in order to rule a nation of people, you have to destroy morality. You have to destroy integrity. So you feed them drugs, alcohol, and sex. And then tear apart the family. But, Instagram is a gateway to porn. Instagram, you can't go on Instagram without looking at some booty. Right?
Yeah, but it's also a gateway to sunsets and people's kids and muscle cars and
come on, Joe.
Cool shit.
Your culture has to recognize debauchery and shun it and ban it. So a disciplined man's gonna say, no, I'm not gonna send this thirst trap, this thirsty comment. I'm gonna stay disciplined in who I am because in order to get the woman, I have to stay away from the woman.
In order to get the woman, I have to stay away from the woman.
Yeah, and keeping your vital man energy for me keeps me like on edge. Like I'm always like an animal, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because I want to release. You see what I'm saying?
I come every time I fuck.
Yo, I used to
trying to get rid of this stuff.
I used to fuck
every
with
3
girls.
weeks.
I used to fuck with girls' heads like that.
We would not come?
Yeah.
Really?
They start crying.
Wow.
I had a girl like straight down and break up crying. I can't please you. Is it me? Is it not?
So you don't have a problem being sexist. That's what the problem is. Because if someone calls you sexist and you go, yeah, I'm sexist.
Yeah. It is what it is. It's like if somebody called me racist. Sure, whatever. The problem with the black mind is the fact that the black mind starts off with a defeatist mentality. From the day you're born, you're taught the white man's out to get you. But then the other psyop is the fact that we were the natives. We were not brought here on slave ships. That's not economically sound. This
what do you mean?
Make sense. So when Christopher Columbus got here, Christopher Columbus got to the Caribbean, according to primary source.
Right.
They basically said the first thing he did was take slaves. He didn't bring slaves. He took slaves from the island. He captured people. So when you have colonization, you got to remember, the United States was only built 13 colonies at first, right? You think this whole land was empty? No, there were natives here.
Right.
But today we're taught that natives is some other people. No, natives are the melanated African being that has come here since the beginning of the Mali Empire. We're talking about 14th, 13th century. We had already come here from Africa.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had already come here.
To the United States or to
this landmass we call the United States. So the way the ocean current works is it works from Africa, leaves out of West Africa, comes to South America and the Caribbean. That's just how the currents go. You don't need no paddle boat or nothing. The currents just take you there, and then you travel up. But we had already been here. All you got to do is look up the story of Sarah Rector. Sarah Rector is a wealthy so-called Native American. I think she was Choctaw tribe or one of these tribes, but she was wealthy, and she wanted a VI pass to go somewhere, and they had her classified as a free person. Why don't we know about the wealthy so-called black people in America? Why don't we know that there were black slave owners in America? Why is that not taught? Why is it not too?
How many black slave owners were there?
Man, the natives here had slaves. They were trading slaves with the so-called white man.
Well, they definitely did that. Natives enslaved people of other tribes.
Right. So if those people are us, the so-called black man, if those natives were us, then we have to tell that history and say how we did have territories and we did, carry out commerce, and we weren't slaves. We were slave owners.
Right, but the majority of African Americans that lived here were brought over here.
No,
No.
that's not economically sound.
What do you mean by it's not economically sound? Like there were slave ships, right?
All right, let's say you wanted to have you wanted to sell marijuana, right?
Right.
Would you import marijuana or would you grow it here if it's already here?
Well, it depends on whether or not marijuana grew here.
Well, can you grow marijuana here?
You can, but
Okay.
we're just talking about marijuana. Like, what if we're talking about something that you can't grow here?
So what I'm saying is, people were already here. Does it make sense to go all the way to this other continent to bring people on a boat when we know that half of your stock is going to die? You wouldn't do that.
So how many people do you think were brought over from Africa on slave ships? Because that definitely happened.
I don't believe it.
What do you mean you don't believe it?
I don't believe that story.
You don't believe that Africans were brought over on slave ships?
Correct. I believe it may have happened, maybe people were brought over as slaves, but I don't think that the black people in America came from Africa on slave ships. I believe the people that were here were slowly conquered. First, they got the East Coast, and then they started spreading out west little by little, conquering. And when you conquer a tribe, what do? You enslave them. They're POWs, right?
Okay.
That's what you do.
But I'm still confused. There's a great history of slave ships being brought over from Africa with Africans that became slaves and worked in the South. Do you think that's lies?
History is his story.
Right.
What about my story? Is my story not valid?
But if you do 23andMe on someone who is from these parts of the country.
Now, the argument is, were we brought here or were we already here? Did we bring ourselves here or did the white man bring us here? You see, when you say the white man brought us here, what you're doing is you're removing our ability to transport ourselves. You're saying, oh, we didn't know anything about boats. That's what you're trying to tell me. You're trying to tell me that we didn't know that there was a landmass here. Only the holy white man knew there was land to the west. But when you look at the holy white man, he said, when we got here, we met black people. Go look at the primary source. We got here, we met black people. When we got the Caribbean, we met black people. You think the Caribbean is right next to America and they weren't in America?
That's interesting.
Our history says that when we met the so-called Caucasian, he was sleeping in the barn with the animals. And we told him, no, you can't sleep in the barn with the animals. We taught them etiquette. We taught them running water. We brought that technology to Europe. Now, if we brought the technology to Europe that saved Europe from the Black Plague, you mean to tell me that if we saved the white race, that we weren't already in America already? When we brought the technology? When Rome was dependent on Africa for food? Remember when the Black Plague hit Rome? The cause was one of the officials was stealing the grain that was coming from Africa. So there was famine, hit Rome. If your source of sustenance is from Africa, how are you superior? You're not. You get your food from me. So if you get your food from me, who's more likely to travel this globe? Me, I'm the source of food.
So do you believe that some Africans came over here in slave ships or none?
Very minimal.
Very minimal, really?
Very minimal.
So you think it's a myth?
Almost.
Now, is there any scholars that support these opinions? Are these your opinions? Or where are you getting this from?
So here's the thing. This is stuff I've studied probably close to 15 years ago. So I don't remember a lot of my sources or who I learned it from, but I can give you a couple of names. What you got to do is you got to look up Shaka Akmos. You got to look up Dr. Kaba Kameen, Dr. Phil Valentine. A lot of this stuff comes from my own common sense. It just does not make sense logistically to take people from all the way from over there to bring them here, especially when half your stock is going to die when you got people right here. Right here. Like, why would I go all the way across the ocean to bring people back across the ocean.
12.5 million Africans were shipped to the New World. 10.7 million survived the dreaded Middle Passage, disembarking in North America, the Caribbean, and South America. How many of those 10.7 million Africans were shipped directly to North America? Only about 388,000. That's right, a tiny percentage. So a small percentage of all the Africans that were enslaved were actually shipped to North America.
That's probably close to the truth. They ain't come from Africa, bro. That don't make no sense. Nobody run a business like that.
Well, they're saying that a lot of people did, though. That's 10.7 million people. Bring on forbidden guests, and you have people that have controversial ideas. You know, they have that finger on the button of getting rid of you. They don't know what to do.